The shuttle doors opened with a soft hiss, and Unipark took her first step onto Station Orth 7. The air smelled different here. It was clean, almost too clean, like someone had removed every trace of life from it. She pulled her small bag closer to her shoulder and looked around. The docking bay was massive. Hundreds of ships of all sizes rested in their bays. Some were smooth and curved like seashells. Others looked like giant insects frozen in metal. None of them looked like anything from Earth. "Beautiful, isn't it?" said Taeho Kim, stepping up beside her. He was taller than Yuna, with tired eyes that always seemed to be thinking about something far away. They had trained together for 2 years before this mission. He was the closest thing she had to family now. "It's big," Yuna said simply. "Let's find out if they're as welcoming as their ships are pretty." They walked together through the long corridors of the station. Other beings moved around them. Some walked on 2 legs like humans. Others floated. A few crawled on walls with many limbs. Yuna kept her face calm, but inside, her heart beat fast. She had seen pictures and videos during training, but nothing prepared her for the reality. The Galactic Naval Academy was the most famous military school in known space. For 1,000 years, the greatest minds from 100 different species came here to learn the art of war and peace. And now, for the first time ever, 12 humans have been allowed to join. Yuna was one of them. They reached the registration hall. It was a round room with a high ceiling that seemed to stretch forever. Lights floated in the air like tiny stars. At the center, a tall creature with 4 arms and skin like polished stone was calling out names. "Earth delegation, step forward," the creature said. Its voice sounded like rocks grinding together. Yuna and Taeho walked to the front. Around them, aliens of all kinds turned to look. Some had eyes on stalks. Others had no eyes at all. But they all stared. "So these are the humans," someone said. The voice came from behind them. Yuna turned. A reptile-like creature stood there. He was covered in green scales that shimmered under the floating lights. His eyes were yellow with thin black slits in the middle. He wore the uniform of a senior cadet. "I am Korvax," he said. "I have read much about your species. You are interesting." "Thank you," Taeho said carefully. It was not a compliment. Korvax smiled, showing rows of small, sharp teeth. "Your species has been traveling between stars for less than 50 years. My people have been doing it for 12,000. The Sylphani have died for 20,000. You are children playing in a room full of adults." Yuna felt anger rise in her chest, but she kept her face still. She had been warned about this. Humans were new. Humans were weak. Humans were primitive. She would hear these things many times. "We learn fast," she said. Korvax laughed. It sounded like hissing. "We shall see, little human. We shall see." He walked away, his tail swishing behind him. Other aliens watched the exchange with interest. A few looked amused. Most looked bored. "Well," Taeho said quietly, "that went well." "Could have been worse," Yuna replied. "He could have tried to eat us." Taeho almost smiled, almost thought the next few days were a blur of orientation sessions, equipment assignments, and finding their way through endless corridors. The station was like a small city floating in space. It had parks, markets, training grounds, and living quarters for over 5,000 beings. The human cadets were given rooms in the far corner of the residential section. The rooms were small but comfortable. Yuna did not mind. She had slept in worse places during her time in Earth's defense forces. On the 3rd day, they began attending classes. The first class was on the history of galactic warfare. The instructor was a Sylphani named Velith. The Sylphani looked like giant insects standing upright. They had hard shells, multiple limbs, and large compound eyes that seemed to see everything at once. Velith wore the flowing robes of a senior instructor. "War is wasteful," Velith began, her voice clicking softly. "This is the first truth you must understand. The Galactic Concord was formed to end the age of great wars. For 800 years, we have maintained peace through strength and wisdom." Yuna listened carefully. She noticed that most of the alien students nodded along like they had heard this before. "Today, conflict is rare," Velith continued. "When it happens, it is decided quickly. Our technology has advanced beyond the crude battles of the past. Superior shields, superior weapons, superior tactics. Victory goes to the more advanced civilization." More nodding. Yun wrote notes on her small tablet. Something about this bothered her, but she could not say what. It all sounded too simple, too clean. After class, she walked through the corridors with Taeho. They passed a large display showing holograms of famous galactic warships. The ships were beautiful. Smooth lines, glowing engines, elegant shapes. They looked more like art than weapons of war. Yuna stopped in front of one image. It showed a massive battlecruiser called the Void Talon. According to the display, it was the pride of the Silthani fleet, the most advanced warship ever built. She studied the image for a long time. "What are you looking at?" Taeho asked. "The armor," Yuna said slowly. "Or rather, the lack of it." "What do you mean?" Yuna pointed at several spots on the ship. "See these areas? The power lines run right under the hull here. The life support center is here. The shield generator is here. And look how thin the covering is." Taeho looked closer. "You're right. There's almost no protection there. Just the basic hull. They rely entirely on their shields," Yuna said. "If the shields go down, the ship is helpless." They stood in silence for a moment, looking at the proud warship. "Maybe their shields never go down," Taeho suggested. "Maybe," Yuna said. But she did not sound convinced. In her experience, everything that could fail eventually did fail. That was the first lesson any soldier learned. Behind them, alien cadets walked past without a second glance at the two humans. They were too small, too new, too unimportant to notice. But Yuna was watching and thinking and remembering all the lessons humanity had learned through blood and fire. She had a feeling those lessons would be important soon. 3 weeks passed at the academy. Yuna and Taeho fell into a routine. They woke early, attended classes, trained in the combat simulators, and studied late into the night. The work was hard, but they were used to hard work. The other human cadets were spread across different sections of the academy. They met sometimes for meals, sharing stories and frustrations. All of them had experienced the same thing. The alien students did not hate them. It was worse than that. The aliens simply did not take them seriously. A Malvery cadet asked me today if humans still use fire for cooking, said G1, a young woman from the Seoul Defense Academy. I told her yes. She looked at me like I had said we still live in caves. At least she talked to you, said Dong-Soo, a large man with a scar across his jaw. Most of them just look through me like I'm not there. Yuna listened but said nothing. She had bigger things on her mind. Tomorrow was the advanced class on starship design. Instructor Velith would be presenting the Void Talon battlecruiser in full detail. Yuna had been waiting for this class for weeks. She had questions. Many questions. Taeho noticed her silence. You are planning something, he said, just thinking. You get that look when you are planning something. I have seen it before. Yuna smiled slightly. I just want to learn. Is that not why we are here? Be careful, Taeho warned. We are guests here. If we make trouble, they could send us home. All of us, I know. But she was going to ask anyway. The next day, the lecture hall was filled with over 200 cadets. Species from across the galaxy sat in rising rows of seats that circled the central platform. In the middle stood Instructor Velith, her compound eyes reflecting the light from dozens of floating screens. Yuna and Tejo sat near the back. They were the only humans in the room. "Today," Velith announced, "we study the greatest achievement in galactic naval engineering, the Void Talon class battlecruiser." She pressed a control on her wrist. The air above her shimmered, and suddenly a massive hologram appeared. The Void Talon hung in the air, slowly rotating. It was even more impressive than the images Yuna had seen in the corridor. Every line, every curve, every glowing engine was perfect. The class made sounds of appreciation. Clicks, hisses, rumbles. Each species had its own way of showing approval. "The Void Talon represents 500 years of Silthani engineering," Velith continued. "It carries enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Its engines can cross a star system in hours. And its shield matrix," she paused for effect, "its shield matrix is impenetrable." More sounds of approval. Velith began explaining the ship's systems in detail. The weapon arrays that could fire in any direction. The engine design that made it faster than any other ship its size. The communication systems that could reach across half the galaxy. And the shields. "The Void Talon shields regenerate at a rate of 20% per second, Velith said proudly. "No known weapon can damage the ship faster than its shields can repair. In the last 300 years, not a single Void Talon has been lost in combat." Korvax, sitting in the front row, spoke up. "Truly the perfect weapon. A ship that cannot be defeated." Velith's antennae moved in what might have been pleasure. Indeed, the Void Talon represents the endpoint of warship design. There is simply no way to improve upon perfection. Yuna felt Tejo's hand on her arm. A warning. She ignored it. Her hand went up. The room went quiet. Every eye, every sensor, every alien face turned to look at the small human woman in the back row. Velith's compound eyes fixed on her. "The human cadet wishes to speak?" Velith's voice carried a note of surprise. "Yes, Instructor. I have a question." "Very well. Ask." Yuna stood. Her heart was beating fast, but her voice was steady. She pointed at the hologram. "Why are your warships missing armor here?" Her finger indicated a spot on the ship's side. A section where power conduits ran just beneath the outer hull. The silence deepened. "And here." She pointed to another spot. "The life support center. And here. The shield generator housing." "These are critical systems," Yuna continued. "Power, life support, shield generation. But I see almost no physical armor protecting them." "Why?" Velith's antennae twitched. In Silthani body language, this meant irritation. "Human cadet, perhaps you did not understand my explanation. The shields make physical armor unnecessary. No weapon can penetrate our shields." "I understood," Yuna said. "But shields are machines. Machines can fail. What happens when the shields go down?" A ripple went through the class. Some aliens laughed. Others looked confused. Korvax turned in his seat, his yellow eyes narrow with contempt. "Shields do not fail," Velith said firmly. "The Void Talon shield matrix has multiple redundant systems. It is impossible for all of them to fail at once." "Impossible?" "Yes, impossible." Yuna did not sit down. "On Earth, we have a saying. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. We call it the law of nature. In our history, we have seen many impossible things happen." Velith's body language shifted from irritation to something harder, cold. "Human history is short and violent. You have been making war on each other since you climbed down from trees. Perhaps this is why you are so concerned with failure. The Galactic Concord does not think this way. We build things that work." Korvax spoke up again, not bothering to hide his scorn. The human thinks she knows better than 1,000 years of Silthani engineering. How amusing. Perhaps on her primitive world, machines break down often. But this is not Earth. This is the galaxy. Some cadets laughed. Others simply turned away, losing interest. But one did not laugh. In the middle rows, a blue-skinned humanoid with gills along her neck watched Yuna with curious eyes. Her name was Sayla. She was Valorian, from a water world on the other side of the galaxy. And she was thinking about what the human had said. Velith raised a limb, and the laughter stopped. Human cadet, your concern is noted, but unnecessary. You will learn, in time, that galactic technology is beyond anything your species has imagined. Now sit down. We will continue the lesson. Yuna sat down slowly. Beside her, Tejo let out a long breath. That could have gone worse, he whispered. Could have gone better too. The lecture continued, but Yuna barely heard it. She was looking at the hologram of the Void Talon. So beautiful. So proud. So confident in its perfection. And so vulnerable. If anyone ever found a way past those shields. After the class ended, Yuna walked toward the exit. Most of the alien cadets ignored her. A few gave her looks of amusement or pity. The foolish human who thought she knew better than her superiors. But one person was waiting for her. Sayla stepped into her path. Up close, her blue skin shimmered like light through water. Her dark eyes studied Yuna with genuine interest. You asked a good question, Sayla said. Her voice was soft, like waves on a shore. I do not think anyone has asked it before. Thank you. Why do you think about failure so much? Is this common for humans? Yuna considered the question. We think about failure because we have failed. Many times. And people died because we were not prepared. So now, we always prepare for the worst. Sayla nodded slowly. My people have not had a war in 3,000 years. I do not know what it means to fail like that. Be grateful, Yuna said. And be careful. Because the universe does not care if you are prepared or not. Bad things happen anyway. She walked away, leaving Sayla standing alone in the corridor, thinking about a question no one had ever thought to ask before. Why were the warships missing armor there? That evening, Yuna sat alone in the observation deck on the top level of the station. Through the transparent walls, she could see thousands of stars. Somewhere out there, very far away, was Earth, her home. A small blue world that had taught her everything she knew about war. She heard footsteps behind her. 2 sets. She turned. Sayla had returned, and she had brought someone else. A small creature with large ears and gray fur. Yuna recognized the species. A Phanari from a desert world near the galactic core. This is Miko, Sayla said. He is also curious about your question. Miko nodded his small head. His voice was high and quick. The Valorian told me what you asked in class. I could not stop thinking about it. May we talk? Yuna gestured to the seats beside her. Sit. They sat. For a moment they just looked at the stars together. I do not want to be rude, Sayla began carefully. But I must ask, why do humans think so much about bad things? In class, the instructor was right. Galactic technology is very advanced. Ships are safe. Shields work. Why worry about what might go wrong? Yuna was quiet for a long time. Then she spoke. How old is your civilization, Sayla? Valorians have had writing for 20,000 years. Space travel for 12,000. And yours, Miko? Phanari civilization is 8,000 years old. We have been traveling between stars for 5,000. Yuna nodded. Humanity has had writing for about 6,000 years. We discovered fire long before that. And we have been killing each other since the very beginning. The 2 aliens looked at each other. War is common for many young species, Maiko said. It is a phase. A violent childhood. Most species grow out of it when they reach the stars. We did not. Sayla's gills fluttered. This was a sign of surprise among Valorians. What do you mean? Yuna leaned back in her seat. When humans reached space, we brought our wars with us. We fought over planets. We fought over resources. We fought because we were afraid of each other. For the first 100 years of human space travel, we spent more time fighting ourselves than exploring. That is sad, Sayla said softly. It was terrible. Millions died. Cities burned on a dozen worlds. Fleets destroyed each other in the dark between stars. We learned every way a person can die in space. Explosive decompression, radiation, fire, cold, starvation. We learned it all. The observation deck was silent except for the soft hum of the station systems. Then how did you survive? Maiko asked. We learned. Yuna stood and walked to the window. The stars seemed very close. Every time we failed, we studied the failure. Every time a ship was destroyed, we asked why. Every time a weapon worked against us, we found a defense. And then we built better, stronger, smarter. She turned to face them. You asked why I worry about shields failing. Let me tell you a story. 40 years ago, before I was born, there was a battle called the Fall of Sol Station. It was the largest space station humanity had ever built. Home to 2 million people. Protected by the most advanced shields our engineers could create. Sayla leaned forward, listening intently. An enemy fleet attacked. Their weapons were strange. They did not try to break through our shields. Instead, they sent out a pulse of electromagnetic energy. An EMP. It passed right through the shields. And it turned off everything inside the station. Everything? Maiko's large ears stood straight up. Everything. Power, life support, weapons, navigation. The shields stayed up, but nothing else worked. The people inside began to die. First from cold, then from lack of air. The fleet tried to help, but their own systems were damaged too. Yuna's voice became harder. 800,000 people died that day. Women, men, children. My grandmother was one of them. My grandfather survived only because he was on a small ship outside the station. He watched through a window as his wife and daughter suffocated. The silence was heavy now. After that, Yuna continued, humanity changed how we built things. We created the Aegis Protocol. New rules for every ship and station. Multiple backup systems. Physical armor around critical areas. Manual overrides for everything. We made sure that no single attack could ever kill us so completely again. But the EMP went through the shields, Sayla said slowly. That means shields are not perfect protection. No, they are not. Nothing is perfect. That is the lesson my people learned in blood. And we have not forgotten. The door to the observation deck opened. Tejo walked in, carrying a tablet. Sorry to interrupt, he said. But you should see this. Korvax filed a complaint against you with the Academy Council. Yuna was not surprised. What does it say? He claims you disrupted the class and disrespected Silphani heritage. He wants you removed from the advanced program. Sayla made a sound of anger. That is unfair. She only asked a question. Korvax does not like questions that make him look foolish, Tejo said. Neither does anyone else here. They are not used to being challenged. Yuna took the tablet and read the complaint. It was written in careful, formal language. But the message was clear. The human was a troublemaker. She did not belong here. What will you do? Maiko asked. Nothing, Yuna said. I will go to the council if they call me. I will explain my question. And I will ask them the same thing I asked in class. If they cannot answer, that is not my problem. Ho shook his head. You are taking a big risk. They could send you home. Then they sent me home. But I will not apologize for thinking. Sayla stood up. Her blue skin seemed to glow in the starlight. I will speak to the council too. I will tell them your question was fair. If they want to punish you for asking questions, they should punish me for wanting to hear the answers. Me too, Maiko said firmly. The Fenari have a saying. Fear of questions is fear of truth. Yuna looked at them. These aliens she had met only hours ago. They were nothing like her. They came from different worlds, different histories, different ways of thinking. But in this moment, they understood something important. Some questions needed to be asked, even if the answers were uncomfortable. Thank you, she said. Teho put a hand on her shoulder. Whatever happens, we face it together. That is the human way, is it? Sayla asked. We learned that too, Yuna replied. Alone, we die. Together, we survive. Another lesson written in blood. Outside the window, the stars burned on forever. Cold and beautiful and dangerous. Somewhere out there, wars were still being fought. Ships were still being destroyed. Beings were still dying because someone, somewhere, had failed to prepare. Yuna would not let that happen again. Not if she could help it. The council could judge her tomorrow. Tonight, she had work to do. She sat back down and began writing. Notes about shield weaknesses. Ideas for armor placement. Plans for backup systems. Everything she had learned. Everything she had thought. Everything she believed. Her grandfather had watched his family die through a window. She would make sure that window was the last thing any enemy ever saw. The academy council met 3 days later. Yuna stood before them in a great circular chamber. 7 beings sat in high seats, representing 7 of the most powerful species in the Concord. They looked down at her like judges deciding the fate of a criminal. Korvax was there too, standing on the other side of the room. His yellow eyes never left Yun, the lead counselor, an ancient Sylphani with faded colors on her shell, spoke first. Human Cadet Yuna Park, you have been accused of disrupting classes and disrespecting the heritage of Concord species. How do you answer? Yuna kept her voice steady. I asked a question, counselor. Nothing more. A question that implied our engineering is flawed. A question that asked why critical systems have no physical protection. I did not say it was wrong. I asked why. The counselors looked at each other. Soft clicking sounds passed between them. Sylphani had a complex private language that other species could not understand. Finally, the lead counselor spoke again. We have discussed this matter. The complaint is withdrawn. Korvax hissed in surprise. What? But she insulted. She asked a question. Another counselor interrupted. A tall being with pale skin and 4 eyes. The academy exists to teach through questions. We will not punish curiosity. However, the counselor's 4 eyes focused on Yuna. We will give you a chance to prove your point. Yuna's heart beat faster. How? Tomorrow, we hold the annual fleet simulation exercise. Cadets command virtual fleets in combat scenarios. It is a test of tactical thinking. You will participate. If your ideas have merit, show us in battle. Korvax smiled his sharp-toothed smile. I will lead one of the fleets. I look forward to showing the human how real warriors fight. Yuna met his gaze without flinching. I look forward to showing you how humans fight. That night, Sayla found Yuna in the simulation preparation room. The Valorian had news. I requested to lead the opposing fleet, Sayla said. They approved it. Maiko will be on my team. And I want you and Teho as my tactical advisors. Yuna looked up from the tactical screens she had been studying. You are giving us command positions? But we are just first-year cadets. You have ideas. I want to see if they work. Sayla sat down beside her. Korvax will have 3 Void Talon-class ships in his fleet. Standard Concorde formation. He is confident. Perhaps too confident. What ships do we have? Older vessels. A Fanari scout carrier. 2 Valorian patrol cruisers. A cargo ship converted for combat. Sayla made a soft sound of frustration. Nothing that can match the Void Talons directly. Yuna smiled. It was a small smile, but there was something dangerous in it. Good. Good. If we had equal ships, we would fight an equal battle. And in an equal battle, experience wins. Korvax has more experience. But we do not want an equal battle. We want an unfair one. Sayla's gills fluttered. You want to cheat? Not cheat. We want to fight on our terms, not his. That is not cheating. That is strategy. The next morning, the simulation chamber was filled with spectators. This exercise was always popular, but today was special. Everyone wanted to see the human cadet who had challenged 1,000 years of Concorde wisdom. Instructor Velith was there. The Academy Council watched from elevated platforms. Hundreds of cadets filled the observation galleries. Yuna and Tejo stood on the bridge of their simulated flagship, a battered old cruiser called the Starweaver. Sayla commanded from her seat in the center. Maiko coordinated the smaller ships from his tactical station. Across the simulated battlefield, Korvax's fleet waited. 3 Void Talons, gleaming and perfect, supported by a dozen smaller ships. It was a wall of power. This is unfair, Maiko said quietly. His fleet has 4 times our firepower. Firepower is not everything, Yuna replied. Tejo, show them the plan. Tejo activated a display. It showed the Void Talon schematics Yuna had studied since her first day. Red circles marked the weak points she had identified in class. Power conduits here. Life support here. Shield generator housing here. These are our targets. But the shields will stop any attack on those points, Sayla said. Not if we overload the shields first. Yuna pointed to another display. The Void Talon shields regenerate fast, but they have a maximum absorption rate. If we hit them with enough force, all at once, from multiple directions, the shields will flicker. Just for a moment. That moment is all we need. You want to use our entire firepower on one ship? Yes, we ignore the small ships. We focus everything on one Void Talon at a time. Hit the shields with everything we have. The moment they flicker, we fire kinetic missiles at the weak points. No shields mean no protection. The armor there is too thin to stop a direct hit. Maiko's ears twitched. And if it does not work, then we die gloriously, and Korvax gets to be even more arrogant, Tejo said dryly. But it will work. The math is solid. The signal came. The battle had begun. Korvax's fleet advanced immediately. He formed his 3 Void Talons in a triangle, smaller ships protecting their flanks. Classic Concorde formation. Perfect. Unbeatable. All ships, execute pattern Sigma, Sayla commanded. Stay mobile. Do not engage directly. The smaller fleet scattered. They moved in seemingly random patterns, firing occasional shots that bounced harmlessly off the Void Talon shields. Korvax's fleet chased them, growing frustrated. What are you doing, little fish? Korvax's voice came over the communication channel. Running? Is this how humans fight? Like cowards? Ignore him, Yuna said. Keep moving. Wait for the opening. Minutes passed. Korvax's fleet spread out, trying to corner the smaller ships. The perfect formation began to break. There, Tejo said sharply. The lead Void Talon is separated from the others by 300 kilometers. Now or never. Yuna nodded. All ships converge on target Alpha. Full attack. Everything we have. 4 ships turned as one. They raced toward the lead Void Talon from 4 different directions. Weapons fired. Missiles launched. Energy beams cut through space. The Void Talon's shields flared brilliant blue as they absorbed the attacks. Korvax laughed. Foolish. You cannot hurt me. But Yuna watched the shield indicators on her screen. They were dropping, slowly, then faster. More. Give me more. The ships poured everything into the attack. The shield indicator hit 15%. 10%. 5. Shields are flickering, Maiko shouted. Now. Kinetic missiles. Target the power conduits. 4 missiles streaked across space. Small. Fast. Physical. Not energy weapons that shields could easily stop. They hit the Void Talon just as its shields failed for 1 terrible second. 4 explosions. The power conduits ruptured. The massive battlecruiser went dark. Its lights died. Its weapons stopped firing. Its engines fell silent in the observation galleries. The crowd went completely silent. Korvax screamed in rage over the communications. Impossible. This is impossible. But it was not impossible. It had happened. Target the second Void Talon, Yuna said calmly. Same pattern. 20 minutes later, all 3 Void Talons drifted dead in space. Korvax's remaining ships surrendered in the observation galleries. The silence was slowly replaced by murmurs. Then talking. Then something that sounded almost like shouting. The council members leaned forward in their seats, their alien faces showing expressions of shock. Instructor Velith stood frozen, her compound eyes fixed on the display, where 3 perfect warships lay broken and dark. Korvax demanded to speak. This was dishonorable. They used dirty tricks. Coward tactics. Yuna finally answered him. Her voice carried clearly across the chamber. In a real war, honor does not stop a hull breach. Victory goes to the one who survives. That is the only rule that matters. The simulation ended. The chamber buzzed with voices in 100 languages. Something had changed. Everyone could feel it. A question that had never been asked had finally been answered, and nothing would ever be the same again. 1 year later, the stars looked the same as they always had. Cold, distant, eternal. But the galaxy had changed. Slowly at first, then faster than anyone expected. Yuna stood on an observation platform above the Orith 7 shipyards. Below her, massive shapes moved in the construction bays. Workers from a dozen species crawled over hulls, installing panels, welding joints, running cables. They were building something new, something that had never existed before. The Bastion-class heavy cruiser it was not beautiful like the Void Talon. It was thick and angular, covered in layers of reinforced armor. Its lines were practical, not elegant. It looked like a warship that expected to be hit and planned to survive, because that was exactly what it was. Tejo walked up beside her. He wore the uniform of a junior tactical officer now. They both did. Graduation had come 3 months ago, and neither of them had gone home. The first one launches tomorrow, he said. They asked Sayla to command it. She deserves it. Without her, the council would never have listened. Without you, there would be nothing to listen to. Yuna shook her head. I just asked a question. She made sure it was heard. Below them, the Bastion's weapon systems were being tested. The ship had energy shields like any Concord vessel. But behind those shields was something different. Armor. Real armor. Thick plates of composite metal around every critical system. Power conduits were buried deep inside the hull. The shield generator had 3 backup units. Life support systems were split into 20 separate zones, each with its own power source. If this ship's shields failed, it would not die. It would fight on, The council had called the new design philosophy the Park Kim Doctrine. Yuna had tried to refuse the honor, but they insisted. They said the galaxy needed to remember where this idea came from. They needed to remember the species that had learned through suffering what peace had let everyone else forget. The door to the observation platform opened. Instructor Veleth entered. Yuna and Taeho straightened. Old habits were hard to break. Veleth waved a limb. "Please, no formality. I am not your instructor anymore." She moved to stand beside them, looking down at the shipyards. For a long moment, she said nothing. "I have been teaching at this academy for 112 years, Veleth said finally. In that time, I have seen thousands of cadets, brilliant minds from across the galaxy. But none of them ever asked the question you asked. Perhaps they did not see what I saw," Yuna said carefully. "No, they saw it. They simply did not think it mattered." Veleth's compound eyes turned to look at her. "We had become comfortable, safe. We believed our technology made us untouchable. You reminded us that safety is an illusion, that everything we build can be destroyed. I did not mean to cause trouble. You caused exactly the kind of trouble we needed." Veleth made a sound that might have been a laugh. "The Sylphani High Council was furious when they first saw your simulation. They called it an insult to our engineering. But then they ran their own simulations, secret ones, and they discovered you were right." Taeho raised an eyebrow. "They did? A Sylphani engineering team spent 3 months trying to prove you wrong. They failed. Every scenario they tested, every attack pattern they tried, the result was the same. A focused assault on the weak points could cripple a void talon in minutes." Veleth turned back to the shipyards. "We have been building these ships for 500 years. We thought they were perfect. And all that time, we were one clever enemy away from disaster." The three of them stood in silence for a while, watching the workers below. "What happened to Korvax?" Yuna asked. "He transferred to a research station near the Outer Rim. He could not accept the changes. He still believes you cheated somehow." Veleth's antennae moved in what seemed like amusement. "Pride is a difficult thing to release." "I do not hate him," Yuna said. "He was just doing what everyone else did. Following what he was taught. That is very generous of you. It is practical. Hating him wastes energy I could use for other things." Veleth made that laughing sound again. "Practical. Yes, that seems to be the human way." A chime sounded. The official ceremony would begin soon. The ceremony hall was filled with beings from across the Concord. Representatives from 40 species. Military commanders, scientists, politicians. They had all come to witness the launch of the first Bastion-class cruiser. Yuna and Taeho sat in the front row. Beside them were Maiko and the other members of their original team. Behind them sat the other human cadets from their year, all 12 of them. They were all officers now. Instructor Veleth took the central platform. Her voice carried through the great hall. "For 800 years, the Galactic Concord has maintained peace through strength. We believed our technology was supreme. We believed we had nothing left to learn about war." She paused. "We were wrong." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. 1 year ago, a human cadet asked a simple question in my classroom. She asked why our greatest warships had no armor protecting their critical systems. I dismissed her question. I told her shields made armor unnecessary. I told her nothing could penetrate our defenses. Veleth's voice hardened. I was arrogant. We were all arrogant. We had forgotten the truth that humanity learned through centuries of blood and fire. No shield is eternal. No victory is guaranteed. The only true protection is to prepare for failure and build something that can survive it. She gestured toward the great window. Outside, the first Bastion cruiser hung in space. Sayla stood on its bridge, visible through the viewing screen. Today, we launched the first ship built under the Park Kim Doctrine. It is not the most elegant ship we have ever made, but it may be the most honest. It does not pretend to be untouchable. It knows it can be hurt, and it is ready. The crowd began to applaud. Not the polite applause of diplomatic functions, but something deeper. Something real. Velith raised a limb for silence. Humanity has been part of the Galactic Concord for only 5 years. In that short time, they have taught us something we had forgotten. That wisdom does not always come from the oldest civilizations. Sometimes it comes from the youngest. From those who have not had time to forget their wounds. She turned to face Yuna directly. "Officer Park, would you speak?" Yuna had not expected this, but she stood anyway. She walked to the platform and looked out at the sea of alien faces. "I am not good at speeches," she began. "On Earth, we say actions speak louder than words. So I will keep this short." She took a breath. Humanity spent thousands of years learning how to hurt each other. We created weapons that could burn cities in seconds. We built machines that could kill millions in moments. We turned all our intelligence and creativity toward destruction. And we nearly destroyed ourselves many times. The crowd was completely silent, but we survived. Not because we were the strongest. Not because we were the smartest. We survived because we learned from every failure. Every war taught us something. Every defeat made us better. And eventually, we learned that the only way to truly win is to make sure the next war never happens. Or, if it does, to survive it. She looked at the Bastion cruiser floating in space. This ship represents that lesson. Build for the worst case. Prepare for everything to fail. And never stop thinking about what could go wrong. Because in war, something always goes wrong. The question is whether you are ready for it. She stepped back from the platform. The applause was thunderous. Later that night, Yuna stood alone on the observation deck. The ceremony was over. The Bastion had completed its test flight. Tomorrow, it would join the active fleet. More would follow. In 5 years, half the Concord's warships would be built under the new doctrine. Taeho found her there, as he always did. "What are you thinking?" he asked. Yuna looked out at the stars. "I am thinking about all the wars we survived to get here, and hoping we taught them enough to survive theirs." "You think another war is coming?" "There is always another war coming, somewhere, somehow. The only question is whether we are ready." Taeho stood beside her. Together, they watched the stars burn on forever. Far away, beyond the edge of Concord space, something was moving. Something old. Something hungry. Something that had been waiting for a very long time. But when it came, it would find the galaxy was no longer sleeping. It would find warships with armor around their hearts. It would find species who had finally remembered what it meant to prepare for the worst.